baby was literally, she had a baby in her arm when she escaped domestic violence, right? So we started working together. I basically taught her the ropes of, marketing, business, etc. But I've always been pushing her. I said, you cannot always be working for me. You cannot always be working for somebody. Start thinking bigger. I'm so happy and so proud. And I remember sometimes in the middle of our working relationship, she sent me a photo. She said, Irene, because I've been working with you, not only have I survived, escaping the abuse, she said, but I'm now building my own house.
Welcome to episode number 11 of the 100 Successful Women, a Conversation to Inspire series. Episode number 11. I am so grateful for those of you who have joined me for the past 10 episodes and those of you who did watch the video and provide me with a lot of great and positive feedback as well. So today on episode number 11, we have another beautiful woman joining us to share with us her wisdom, her success stories. So her name is Irene Becker. She is the founder of 99Aupairs. So I know that there are some women out there who have not heard of Aupairs before. So I am so grateful to have Irene sharing with us the concept of Aupairs. And then I love that she is actually creating a platform, not only allow busy moms to get the helping hands while they are busy working with their career. And also, she's also creating the opportunities for younger women as well to live in Australia. And also, not only that, she also on a mission to help more women who have the desire to have their business on their own as well. So I'm so glad that I had this conversation with Irene, learned so much from her about her award-winning business and her entrepreneurship. So she has been sharing a lot of golden nuggets throughout the conversation on how to overcome different challenges as an entrepreneur. So let's all have a listen what Irene's sharing with us in our conversation coming up.
Thank you so much for having me, Vivienne. Such a pleasure.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know Irene, I actually haven't speak to Irene as yet. We know each other from a coaching course that we are doing. So I am so happy that she is willing to jump on here to share with us her wisdom. So I did see the things that Irene was doing. So I really love what she's doing. So for those of my listeners or everyone out there who don't know Irene, do you mind to share with them who is actually Irene Becker?
Sure. I'm just your regular mom of two who loves to work. Yeah, I was always working. And my biggest challenge as a mom in corporate was, and an expat in Australia as well, was who's going to look after my kids, right? So we had that discussion at some point, like, oh, somebody will have to cut down. And first of all, I was not raised to stay at home, to be a stay-at-home mom, which is beautiful for some, but just was not for me. And the other option was paying for childcare and basically giving up all your after-tax money straight into childcare. And it was really stressful. So I'm from Europe, so I'm from Germany. So I knew of a lot of au pairs. So a lot of my Russian and Ukrainian friends were au pairs back then. So that was my number one. Let's host an au pair and figure it out. So we had our first au pair when my son was 5 months old. So my hubby, total rock star, stayed at home as well for 6 months with him. And then we had the au pair to help us out. And it was the best thing ever. It was just the flexibility, because things happen every day, right? Like looking after a child is already a full-time job, us as moms know, because there's also 20 other jobs to do.
That's right.
So having that extra pair of hands was really, really helpful. And it just went from there, explaining to friends what is an au pair, how to find one, and then to friends of friends, and all of a sudden it became strangers. We're like, I think we need to put it into a platform, because I can't work full time and I have kids and then help people find au pairs. So I started the business called 99Aupairs. Slowly moved into an agency because I realized a lot of moms are just too busy and they can't just, do it yourself. And time is very precious. It's the most precious commodity, as one of our customers said. And but there were lots of customers who we had to turn down, because if you put your business hat on, right, it's not social service. Eventually you have to charge money. And we had to turn down a lot of moms who simply couldn't afford the service but really needed the help. So on top of the business, after 7 years now, on top of the business, which is running really smoothly, we nailed the pricing, we nailed the customer service is amazing, the reviews are outstanding. We've decided to add the coaching part to it. So for those moms who could never actually afford it but wanted to figure out how to do it and actually make money with it, we're adding a coaching part to it so they can learn to build their own business around their children and around their life by building an agency for AuPairs. And obviously it can branch out into other areas like NDIS or HE as well. So again, just your regular working mom who wants to work and who loves to work, but also obviously wants to do the best for her family.
You are such a the moms that is like changing from one ordinary moms to one successful entrepreneur. See how much thing that you have done. It's not only for yourself and for many moms out there.
Yeah, I'm always for women. I used to say I'm a silent feminist. I'm less silent these days, but I feel like I was a feminist when I was even a kid. I didn't even know that word existed. But I'm not sure if you know that about me, but I was born in Soviet Union, which is very traditional and patriarchal. And it was typical, girls used to wear dresses and I wanted to climb on trees, and it was a typical, but the boys are going to look under your skirt. And for me, they just like didn't land. I'm like, oh, well, then give me pants. Yeah. And there were no pants for girls. It just wasn't there. So I accidentally ended up tearing my dresses on the fence. And then my mom had to go and get some pants stitched for me. So that was my first sign of rebellion. So I don't care about your roles. I want to do what I want to do. And it kind of like went through life. But for me, I think what's really driving now is seeing moms cutting it short and like just like slowing down and say, oh no, but I've decided to have kids, so I need to slow down. It just doesn't land, because us women end up caring for other people for up to 30 years. Yeah, we look after our children, to our parents, we look after our partners, we look after our sick family members, right? Then we look after our children's children. And all of a sudden we realize one day we've been looking after other people, free of charge, have got no super, and therefore we have the largest number of women ever in history who retire straight into poverty, right? And we outlive our men by far these days as well, right? So it's quite a sad statistic that I learned a few years back, and it kind of my drivers, you know what, you need to be financially independent, you need to be financially stable, not just because 50% of us will get divorced eventually, but just because anything can happen, right? Your husband, your partner could have an accident, right? Or maybe you're a single parent already anyways, and you need to be able to provide, and you need to be able to raise your children in a way that they know how to provide for themselves as well. So it's really, my mom's raised me to always be independent, and it kind of just comes through all the time. So whenever I can help a fellow mom with good advice, which I tell her, ignore if you want it, because it's yours, right? But or just support along the way. It's just, you need to live your life on your terms, and financial independence is an additional support, is how you get there.
I love that. I love that the story where you were sharing that when you were younger, you were climbing up the tree and you dare to make the changes. You dare to challenge the mediocre where girls are wearing dress and not allowed to climb, but you dare to make the difference, being the different one.
Yeah. And I see that on my daughter now. She's challenging us all the time. And I'm like, well, I love it on one hand. I'm like, oh, don't do it with me. Like, it's hard for me not to agree with myself, right? She's like such a little copy of me. But at the same time, like, don't ever allow anyone to put that light out. Just keep going. And her determination sometimes just amazing. And I love to see that in girls. And I hope she will keep that through her teenage years as well.
Yeah, I love that you're actually allowing her to become herself instead of being someone else, because a lot of the time parents tend to put our own perspective to our children, and like you say, you were that little girl before and you understand.
Yeah.
I love that.
100%.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Irene. So I know that your company is 99Aupairs. And then because prior to this, for myself, I know nothing about Aupairs. So is that a concept that's normally in the Europe countries?
Yeah, it's a very popular concept in Europe. So pretty much
Uh-huh.
everybody knows what an au pair is. It
Mhm.
comes from French, means en
Okay.
pair. So basically equal. So you could say it's a family member, right? The way
Okay.
I explain it to potential clients is, imagine it's your husband's little niece. And last time you saw her at your wedding, yeah, it's like 10 years ago. So back then she was a little girl. Now she's a grown woman. Yeah. So you kind of have a connection, you have a bond, but actually you have no idea who that person is. So, and usually they come after graduating school. So it's a rite of passage. Yeah, they after graduating school, they go overseas to improve their language skills, experience the culture, and it's almost that one push for independence, right? Just to do something on your own, but still in the safety of a family environment. Yeah, and and they literally become your mother's helper, right? Helping hand. Anything that falls off a plate of a mom becomes the au pair's role. Everything that touches the kids or the kids touch, becomes an au pair role. Being it, packing kids' lunches or packing the nappy bags for the park, jumping with the kids on the trampoline for half an hour. Imagine us jumping on the trampoline. I'm like, let me go change my pants here. Again, just being a good friend and good buddy and another trusted person for the kids who they can actually chat to. But the beauty is also somebody who is fully dedicated to give the kids the attention, right? Sometimes they want to play a Pokemon game or whatever else. And you give them 5 minutes of your time, you're like, I really gotta go and do something else. But often what happens then is parents realize, you know what, actually, why is someone else playing with my kid? Yeah, I actually want to have the quality time. Could you actually prep some dinner and I'll go read books with my kids? So that's the transition that a lot of parents then have. And that's why once somebody has an au pair or hosts an au pair and it's a really positive experience, they do it for 5 to 7 years until the kids get into high school and don't need an au pair anymore. So it really becomes a lifestyle.
Wow. So you yourself having an au pairs before, and that's why you decided to make it into an agency.
Correct. So I've been hosting au pairs for nearly 9 years now. And I think I was one of the first in my friends group, but it existed in Australia already, but it's still very niche. It was very niche. It still is very niche. I think about 3 years ago when there was a scandal with Peter Dutton allowing an au pair to come on the wrong visa, that's finally where we all got education for three weeks in the newspapers on what an au pair is and is not. But it's still very niche. So in certain circles of families who host au pair, they are serial hostess, so to speak, right? Their comments are, I could not survive 3 weeks without my au pair, right? Or some single moms would say, my au pair is so much better than my ex-husband because if I ask her to do something, she'll actually just go and do it. I don't have to remind her for 6 months. So it just becomes that trusted inner circle person who will just pick up all the slack, right? That us as mom have to deal with in our heads and in daily lives.
Well, that's a very good the helping hands in the family. Of course, it's going to be beneficial for all the moms out there because moms have so many things to do, and it's always good to have an extra pair of hands.
100%, especially in our Western society, right? I'm not sure how it all developed this way, but all of a sudden, all the pressure is on moms, right? You're supposed to do everything. And there's obviously, people always say you need your village of support, but people actually don't know what that means.
That's right.
In Asian countries or in Soviet Union, where I grew up, it's common. It's just normal that you have these codependencies in a positive way, right? Where you just do things for each other. In Singapore, I have lots of clients from like who lived in Singapore. You have live-in maids, right? In Dubai, is the same thing. So all my customers or clients from Australia who lived overseas, they had this experience, and they're like, I just don't know how I would live again without a help. And therefore, so they opt to actually host au pairs, because with their children's ages, it's also more suitable to have, you know, somebody who's fun and entertaining. And I just don't believe with the concept you have to do it all yourself. That's just a straight way to burnout, to broken relationship, because it builds resentment, right? And you just need the support. And I always say it doesn't matter where the help comes from. It doesn't have to be an au pair. If your parents are open to help you, if your neighbors are open to help you, if your friends are open, always say yes first and figure out how it looks later. And it doesn't matter whether it's 100% what you want. Help is help, right?
Yes.
If it's free help, even better. And the next stage is then obviously getting the paid support. And then you can structure it the way you are. But always say yes to help. An extra hour of sleep is worth so much, isn't it?
Yes, that's so true, because women have these they thought that they just have to put everything on their shoulders. They are so reluctant to ask for help. And you're right there. Women should ask for help, because they just can't have it all. It just seems that they have it all, and it's end up like burn out like you just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, Irene, before you, is there any challenges that you having now in your business or in your family, and how do you tackling all these challenges nowadays?
Oh, there's always challenges. I think in your first year of business is probably the challenge of, I don't know, I need a desk, right? So it starts very small. In 10 years, it's the same challenge of, I need to fit out my office, right? It's still a challenge. It's just different level of challenges. And I think with every challenge, you just grow. And the main thing is, I find with every challenge is to understand that it's a process. So every crisis, starts with a little bit of meltdown, a bit of cracking, right? And then that's when you first recognize, that you have a challenge and you're not coping. And then again, call it out, right? Ask for help and say, hey, people, I'm really struggling. I've had those moments many times, and I was ready to fold the business in, when COVID started and the borders closed, which is for a business that depends on international, is deadly, right? So obviously I had an ugly cry, and then I whinged about it in trusted communities, and people are like, oh yeah, so you've called it out, you recognize, now you can go into solution mode. I'm like, what do you mean? Is that part of a process? Yeah, that's part of a process. So I think for me at the moment, I can't call it a challenge. It's more of a growth phase, really. So 99Aupairs works really smoothly. We just keep tracking along. We've launched NDIS last year. So again, similar concept of live-in support, but for our NDIS clients. So that's parents with children with disabilities. We again have another layer of complexity in their life and challenge in their life. So for them, again, the same thing, right? Super important to get help, because they are, again, held back because they have to give so much more to their children to make sure they cope with the world really well. That means that their businesses or their work suffers and they have to hold back there. So we've launched NDIS, which works really, really well, and I love working with those clients. This year we're also launching the coaching side. So again, approaching all the mums I couldn't work with before, but my heart was always bleeding when I heard, I was like, I've got 3 kids and I really want to do a lot of things. Opening the coaching part. So teaching them actually on how to start a business. So instead of doing it in 7 years, how I've done, it's literally doing it in 3 to 5 months and taking them through all the mistakes I have made that they don't have to do, right? And taking them straight off. This is how your ideal client looks like. This is what their pain points are. And again, understanding. I thought I always understood my clients, but I was actually not my client, right? Because I never paid an agency to hire an au pair for me, right? So therefore, slowly, by listening and asking questions, I started understanding my clients better and really serving them much better. And now I can actually go back to other women and expand the impact really that I want to do, want to have. And help them to build their own business around their life. So again, just get there first of all, get yourself organized, right? To understand what is priority. It's a bit of mindset as well. Not everything is critical. Not everything is important. You have to juggle balls, and some of them can drop at times. That's okay. They have to drop, right? Just keep focus on the critical ones. It's business skills, right? It's understanding your clients. It's really great customer service. So if you always focus on value, they will come back and they will talk to their friends, right? And most of my clients are referrals from clients or people I barely even know, are barely in contact, because they see what we do and they're like, oh, you're still in the landscape. That's amazing. And then they just, whenever something pops up and a mom struggles, they refer them to us. So I think it's really just, for me, the main challenge is splitting the different personas I work with and focusing on the message there. But in terms of personal life, we just love it at the moment. So both our kids are in school, which I tell every mom who still has kids in childcare, is like, this is a game changer. Both kids in school is like one drop off and you're like, oh my God, I've got so much time. What am I going to do with this? I'm like, okay, what type of business? Both my husband and I work from home since it was the biggest lifestyle change, and we love it because we finally understand what community means. We finally know who our neighbors are. We actually drop off our kids to school and pick them up. I can go for a swim in the middle of the day, and obviously that's also perks of working for yourself. And, just more family life, and just it's a bit slower than it was before, and just loving life, to be honest. I'm really grateful at the moment for everything we've got.
So how old are your kids?
My son is about to turn 9 in April, and my daughter just turned 6.
Okay. Yeah, that's so good that they are in primary school, both of them in primary school now. So
yeah, and they really, like, last year was tough. I think coming out of COVID, a lot of children struggled. My son struggled mentally as well, because physically he was an 8-year-old, but mentally he was still a 6-year-old, right? And then he lived 2 years of his school life online, right? So he basically didn't know it any different. But this year they're really thriving and they're really enjoying it, and just lots of socializing, lots of other kids. We have, the house is often full. Sometimes we pick up the kids and all of a sudden we have 4 children in the house because they organize themselves play dates on the way home. Like, oh, well, you come along and you come along. And for me, that's just beautiful. Like, we just love having kids in the house. Just let the parents know, yeah, they'll be fed, there'll be pasta at 6 o'clock. You can pick up the kids whenever. And I love the big family feel. I come from a big family, so for me a buzzing house is a happy house. So I just love it. Of course, the demolition after and the cleanup after.
Of course, it's always fun. It's, if you like kids, and it's always fun to have kids, and it's fun to have kids, to see them having fun as well. Yes, correct, 100%. Thank you so much for sharing that, Irene. So you were mentioning that you have been having au pair before, and then you built the business, and now for you also creating a coaching programs for all the women who are thinking to start their business as well. So are you trying to build, like, make it into different agency for these women, or how do you do that?
That's a good question. We're kind of trying to figure it out. I'll probably be led by our clients. So I think initially it is easier to start under a brand, under a license, and learn the business skills, because you already have a reputation built, right? You already have the system built up, and clients recognize a certain brand because they associate a certain level of service, right? So you don't have to break through and explain everything again. And then I would love them to branch out and make it their own, because I think everybody has the right to leave a legacy, right, beyond their own name. for me, that's my third baby, right? That's my legacy, and I want it to go on, even if I eventually step out or I want to do something else. If that brand continues and helps other mothers and, you know, continues to do what it stands for, it would be beautiful. So I definitely, first of all, focus on running the business, focus on, you know, organizing your life, and branch out and create it in your own space, because there are so many opportunities. So AuPairs is just one niche, right? It's for parents with younger children. NDIS is obviously for parents with children with disability, but it also goes into adults, right? So we all, if we have a disability, we need support throughout our life. But then it also branches out into aged care. So it's almost like from cradle to grave almost. As long as somebody is in their own home, right, we would love to support them. And depending on where someone's heart and passion is, right, they might want to branch out into a certain area. Because I have so many requests coming to me for elderly parents, right, who want to be independent, who want to stay in their own home. And they need the support just because their children are on the other side of Melbourne, which is a 3-hour hike. And for us busy working parents, you know, a 3-hour hike during the week is a big activity. So they're obviously worried about their parents, but they want them to be independent as long as possible. But for me at the moment, it's just a focus I can't give, right? It's just too many things. And it's also not my life at the moment. Yeah. Once my parents and my in-laws are in that age group, right, and they need the care, I'll be in the trenches with it, right? And then I will really truly understand and care about this group. And then I would love to go there. I'm just not there, but somebody might already be there, right? Because their parents are there and they understand the system much better, so they can actually branch out into something they really want to work in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. So yeah, like you say, there are different niche and different needs by different people as well. And at the moment, you're only focusing on the AuPairs, which is for younger children. So at this stage, has that something that being built? Have you have moms who working with you, like building the agency?
So it's actually a very new branch for me. I've done it indirectly, so not as part of a program. I've had young moms, single moms. I have a heart, right, for single moms. I have one lady working with me for a while. And when we started working together, my youngest and her son are the same age. So her baby was literally, she had a baby in her arm when she escaped domestic violence, right? So we started working together. I basically taught her the ropes of, marketing, business, etc. But I've always been pushing her. I said, you cannot always be working for me. You cannot always be working for somebody. Start thinking bigger, right? How can you make it bigger? How can you start something on your own? I've been pushing her and pushing her, and we've worked for 4 years together, right? And eventually she said, I am ready. I think I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to start something on my own. And of course, the first response as a boss, you're like, oh, shit. I just told you everything you need to know, because she was literally the voice of the business. She would write. She knows all the process because we developed them together. But on the other hand, I was so happy and so proud. And I remember sometimes in the middle of our working relationship, she sent me a photo. She said, Irene, because I've been working with you, not only have I survived, escaping the abuse, she said, but I'm now building my own house. So it's only because I was working with you. It's not only the finances that I've been able to work, but also the mental strength, right? And I cried when I had this message. I literally, because it was hard, right? Business is hard. It's roller coaster. 1 month works well. The other month is just, oh, crap. And you're like, I just want my paycheck, right? Just nice and stable. But that moment, it's like, this is why I do what I do, right? And it was not a client. It was just somebody who was working with me. And I do the same for all others, right? We all have things that are so challenging, and we all go through stages. And if I can work with moms like this and do it in a systematic way, obviously no one will want to work with me for 4 years to build their own business. But I've created a system where actually these are the basic things. If I would start from scratch, this is what I would do, right? This is how I would follow my own system to recreate anything. If I lose this business for some reason, I could start in any other area and figure it out again.
Mm.
And this is what really inspired me to go and do this again. So Jane, her name is Jane. So Jane is my inspiration to go there and do it.
Oh, I love that. It's so touched to hear the story of Jane, and then you actually help her to change her life. And is that why you decided to start the agency to teach moms? Is that from her?
Yeah, well, I think I was always, I feel my heart was always bleeding a little bit when I had to turn down a client, because I either do it for free and decide it's pro bono, which I've done as well several times, but eventually you're like, well, this is a very expensive hobby if I continue to do this.
Yeah.
I had to turn them down. So every time I'm like, I know there's one person I haven't helped, right? I couldn't help. So those are the people I always like, I wish I could teach you, right? So you can just go and do it yourself. And it was always on the back of my mind at the bottom drawer. I'm like, let me first establish what I have.
Yeah.
But eventually just like, I think now the time's right. The business is at a stage where it's running, it's working, it's established itself, all the processes are clear. And it's just obviously just about scale. I can actually step out and do something new. I'm a weird personality. I try to fire myself as soon as possible. So whenever, even in corporate, whenever I would start a job, I said, my job, I see my job as making myself redundant. Yeah, I want to be made redundant in a way of, can we streamline it as well as possible and make it like easy to hand over to someone new so I can go on and do other things. Yeah, so I get really excited about building something, establishing something, but once it's become standard process, I'm like, can we move on now? Can someone else do it? And I love working with people, and I love building people, right? I love seeing someone grow and challenging them and seeing them develop into the better version of themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So I think coaching was always, I was always interested. I studied business and education. So my first dream job was to be a coach, right? But I'm like, I had zero experience. I'm like, what am I going to coach about? Right. And I had the skills, the theoretical skills, but I had zero business experience. Obviously, I went into business first. But now I'm slowly realizing, I'm like, oh, like 15 years ago, I wanted to do this already. It's just like, I still have all the books I purchased back in the days at university. So it's kind of like, it's one of those dormant ideas that just keep becoming louder and louder and louder, which was 99Aupairs was for me at the time, was like that little toddler that just keeps pulling at your skirt and demanding attention. So this is what 99Aupairs coaching will be for me now.
Wow, you have a really big heart for other women out there, and I love that you're actually keeping your dream inside and you are making it into a reality now.
Yes, thank you. Well, yeah, whenever I can help fills me.
So prior to, you were saying that you were working in corporate before. So in what area?
Oh, that's very interesting, actually. I started my career in recruitment. So back in Germany, I worked in Germany. I worked in Russian Federation, so Russia as well. I worked for a French company over there. I worked for a BBDO company in Germany. I started in SAP, so that's kind of like I slipped into the IT realm. And went into employer branding. My first job here was for a medical supplier and manufacturer. So there I had a job as an e-commerce coordinator.
Wow.
So while it was a B2B company, I was actually B2C because I had my own e-commerce store. So that was my first e-commerce experience. And there I was dealing directly, right? So my buyers, so it was a dental company. My buyers were all the dental practitioners, actually the dental nurses, right? And the practice managers. And it was such an interesting experience because they were not shopping for shoes, right? They were shopping for supplies. So there was no passion in it. There was a job to be done. And their KPI was to save money, right? So where can I save money? So the dentist would decide which brand they want of the product. And it was up to the nurses to figure out, where do I get this brand? Right? So for us, it was, how do we make it the easiest possible experience? Yeah. We've rebuilt the whole website. We've put a lot of specials in there, and it was literally, they had no issues spending $5,000 in 10 minutes. As long as it was very visual, like, oh yeah, I need 10 of the yellow one, 20 of the red one. And it was very much a Google mindset. I don't know how to type. I don't know what it's called, but I expect you to find it for me. So we had a global search that would literally pick up things from 2 letters. It was amazing. It was so much fun. And then I went into digital marketing for FMCG companies. So Heinz. It then merged into Kraft Heinz later. So I went into brands. I was the beans girl doing spaghetti in a can. And then I went on to Global Circle. So still the same company. And I was running campaign, doing chill juices and ambient juices. Was really fun. Big TV campaigns and big, was working with lots of influencers there and all the agencies. And then that was for me the transition. So I already had a child. I was expecting my second one. And I knew I wanted to have a true 9 to 5. So working for big corporates it's called 9 to 5, but it's just like your core role, right? You're actually always on. So it was really, really stressful for me because I had this inkling idea of I want to do something else, but I had zero time. I was working full time, and that was probably the time where I was really stretched. And that's where I pick up the moms now, right, in the coaching business as well, because I had moments where I would leave at 5 o'clock, which is technically your end of the day, but it would still be part-time considered, right? You always got the jokes, today only half a day. So I was already late to leave off, too early to leave office, but already late to pick my child up from childcare, right? So he would mostly be the last one. He'd be so sad. He'd be like, Mommy, you forgot me. I thought you're never going to pick me up. He was non-verbal at the time, but just like the sadness in his eyes, and obviously looks by the carers because they all wanted to go home. and it's just that juggle of, you rush home, you still don't have dinner on the table, and you want to go do good meals, but you end up doing something quick again. And it's just, you're just always rushing, and on the back of your head, I still haven't finished that monthly report, and I want to do this presentation like perfect for a new project, and you just go to bed exhausted. You haven't done half the stuff you needed to do, and you start the next day, you're still exhausted, and you're starting your day on the back foot, right? And it's just a rat race, just keeps repeating. And eventually you come to realization, like you work full time, but then you're actually not earning any more money because you're in childcare out of pocket. And I eventually once told my boss, and I said, I'm so sorry, but I cannot afford to work here because paying childcare for 2 kids full time, I got $3,000 left in my bank account for the rest of the year, so I can buy pasta that. And then she was totally shocked because she didn't have kids, and to her I was like, how? I don't get the calculation. And that was kind of like one of the many little stepping stones where like I need to do something different. So I actually strategically changed my job, still in FMCG, and still into brands, and worked a 9 to 5, because when you change job, you can actually reset expectations a little bit, right? Try to do better, and you do impress and work a little bit more here, a little bit more here. So I've changed that, and then started working on 99Aupairs in parallel, because who needs sleep, right? Once you're trained without sleep, you just do other things.
That's so good, because like you say, that's always a juggle for working moms. And then love that you actually jump out from the corporate and build your own, and now you are teaching others moms to do the same. And I love that. So for the agency, you were saying that now you're helping these moms or these women to build an agency of their own. So what are the most important personality traits or strengths someone needs to work in your industry? Apparently you yourself, Irene, has been working in so many different fields, and you had the experience, you have marketing, you have digital marketing. So what are the most important personality strengths in order for them to be successful in the agency?
I think it's very similar strength to be successful in any area, right? I think first of all is the drive to serve and to do great for others. So again, care is one of the biggest factors that we have, or values that we have as well, is really caring for the client and understanding what it is they need, right? We don't just assume that, yeah, you need an au pair and you need before school care and after school care. Every family is different. Everyone's got a different dynamic. Everyone's loves doing different things and understands parenting different, right? We all have different styles, even within the family. I think one is the willingness to serve and really understand others. So once you understand your client and their pain points, it's just easy to give them what they want. And obviously that's where we add value to any problem that comes up. Another one is actually understanding that business is problem solving, right? So sometimes I would have day where I just want to whinge to my husband, right? I'm like, oh, this client has this and this doesn't work and this doesn't work. He's like, so just solve it. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, that's your job, just solve it, right? So it's, again, I think it's that thinking of, if a problem arises, it is yours to solve. Not to an extent of like, I just give away, throw out the baby in with the bathwater, right? And just give them everything. It's more about, if there is something you're not offering yet as in your business as a service, and clients ask for it because they struggle, I'm like, I can help you with that, right? Let me look into it for you. And that's how we also build our extremes value-based or service-based business, because we understand there's certain issues that arise at certain times. When the au pair arrives, week 1 or 2, she'll be homesick, right? Because it's just part of any person traveling overseas, right? The culture shock settles in at week 1 or 2. We know that. Our clients don't know that. That's so right. We actually prepare them that this is going to happen. This is how we're going to deal with this. Right? So one is, again, willingness to serve. The second one is, again, being organized and being resilient. Being organized obviously helps you to get through the tough days, because you know where everything is. It's almost like if you have your set of keys in a certain spot, you'll find them. It doesn't matter how your day turns out. But if you leave it everywhere, scattered, without plan, without system, it will be really hard to pick it up. Yeah. Resilient is, days are difficult. Sometimes you have mental stress, you have children being sick, you have other things. It's just keep at it, right? You'll fall down, you'll get up. So I think the resilience is a big one. Yeah, being knocked down is part of life. But being able to get up is what makes you stand out. And tenacity, just, consistency, do every day. You need to follow up on your clients. So our understanding is our clients are super busy, right? If they don't get back to you, it's not that because they don't want to work with you. Super busy, right? Yes. Maybe someone's kid just fell sick overnight and they were awake all night, and that's why they didn't get back to you at 9 o'clock, like they said, right? It is because we deal with really, really busy parents. It is our job to make their life easier. And sometimes it's even onboarding them can be difficult, right? And we're like, hey, totally understand. Just let me know where you are. And really, really good communication, which setting expectations, delivering, right, on what you said you will do, but also managing expectations. If you keep your clients informed at any stage of what is happening now, right, what happened so far, what is happening now, they will obviously feed that back as well. And we also train our clients as like, this is how we like to work, right? If we send you something, we expect quick communication back, because then you'll have an au pair in a week. Yeah, if you don't get back to us, it will take 6 weeks because, of all the delays. So again, right, just willingness to serve others. Yeah, really caring about others. It's not about business. Yeah, money will come as a side effect. Obviously, we still need to put our business hat on so we can pay everybody. But we will get paid once we actually deliver good service, and being organized, being resilient, and what did I say? Being consistent, ensuring, and have communication.
That's so important. Like any business or anything that we do, especially with the service industry, the willingness to serve, that's very important, because that's how people like you have the heart. That's why you got so many great feedbacks, testimonials, which I saw from your website, from your clients and your au pairs as well.
Thank you. Oh, can I add a personal one? If somebody wants to work with me, they need to love mom jokes, because I love being a parent, but I also love making fun of being a parent. So, which my kids will definitely pay back one day. They already realize, like, Mom, stop talking about us. It's not cool. But I'm literally like the female version of dad jokes. I love making fun. I think that's just one way to lighten the load. So
Yeah.
somebody needs to understand terrible sense of humor and have fun with it. Maybe have a glass of wine.
That's the life, right? You have to have fun, right? That's the essence of life. If not, life is going to be too boring for everything.
Yeah, I think there was a really funny TikTok that I absolutely love. Is one lady said, before I had children, I was so selfish. I used to take a shower every day, and now I get 10 minutes and I have to make choices. Do I wash my hair or do I take a nap? I'm like, oh my God, where were you when I had little children? I totally get it.
Yes, that's so true, right? With parents, it's so different prior to having kids. And that's the mom's life, and that's lots of moms out there should understand that we got to find funny things while being a mothers, or else that's how we stay sane.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. And if you're insane, just have your little, cynical society you can meet up with. You can complain about life for half an hour and then go back to being a mom.
Yes, that's right. That's important to have a community for support, especially for moms. And yeah, with Irene, I think to go out with you or to hang out with you is going to be fun as well. I already see that you are those funny moms that can create a lot of joy to those around you.
Absolutely. What's life without joy, right? We're just all going to be miserable.
True. That's so true. So I'm very mindful of the time as well, Irene. I know that you're super busy with all your work there. And so what's your favorite productivity hacks? I know that you are a mom, you are entrepreneurs, you have to look after so many different areas of your work. What's your great tips around productivity?
I think first of all, having your lists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can call it whether it's to do or get to do list or one thing, but I think one big thing that you want to tick off and try to do it. If you need to get through something that's tedious or long, I would literally just put a timer, 15 minutes. It forces me back off track, especially if you're doing social media. Oh my goodness, it's a 10-minute timer, because it's just a reminder, like, remember you were doing this, and all of a sudden you went off into, the vortex of social media. And yeah, I think it's just taking time out, wherever that is, whatever is practical, is just, whether it's having that cup of coffee in the morning or going for a walk early in the morning. It's just having that headspace sometimes really important. Might even mean just take a longer shower. Right? That's where all the ideas come to me. Just have a shower, splash your face with fresh water, because I think one is being really organized, the other one is managing stress and still getting back into doing what you need to do. So for me, it's to-do lists and have regular meetings with my team. So it just keeps me motivated.
I love that long shower part, because that's how I always get the inspiration when I'm in the shower as well. And that's very helpful.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So who is your biggest inspiration in your life?
I think for me, I don't know, it's always kind of transcended without me realizing, but the more I meet with older mentors, they always come back, oh, remember you told me this about your mom, or you told me this about your mom. I completely forgot all those things I ever said to anybody. But it'll be like the professors, right, who mentored me during university, or the teachers, right, who made sure I don't drop out of school because I missed most of it, or just like people I met along the way. For me, I think it's still my mom and the women in my life, my grandmothers, because I find they've gone through such tough times back in the days. And my mom was always such a trooper. She always worked full time. She was a teacher by trade, but she was the most passionate teacher I've ever seen. Back in the days, I think it was like the 80s, 90s. Yeah, she would spend nights and weeks prepping the schedule, the timetable for all the teachers in the school. It was by hand, right? She would erase things and do it. She was just the most passionate person. I know that some of her students, her first students, when she just became a teacher in her early 20s, they're still in touch with her. Still tell her that she was the biggest inspiration to them. So I think my mom just had this massive work drive, right? For her, it was just not an option not to show up. It was for her just not an option not to do work, because it was rough times at the time. They all had full-time jobs, and then we also had like micro farms because the jobs didn't pay anything back in Soviet Union. I believe my mom hasn't slept in all her parenting life. She probably never slept more than 4 hours or 5 hours, which is not healthy. Don't recommend. But I think to me that work ethic, and that determination and no is not an option, that's who I got it from, right? My dad was probably the fun person who built my self-esteem, because he was always there and he was always loving and he would always say yes to everything. But my mom is the one who's given me the drive. So 100%. Don't have to look far.
Your mom must be the one that is a woman who someone look up to, because she is a teacher in the school and she loved not only her student but all her co-workers as well. You were saying that she's actually preparing the work for others teachers as well.
I think all the teachers respected her. All my cousins were terrified. Like everybody was terrified. All the younger ones were terrified of my mom because she was so strict. But obviously, you only appreciate it once you get out of school. Like, oh man, she's awesome. And I remember moments when my cousins would come up, say, "Oh, my mom, your mom's so tough." I'm like, "Tell me that. I have to live with her, right?" Back in the days, she was too strict for my liking. And I think but it's funny because she doesn't see herself that way. She doesn't see herself as strong and successful. She always looks at me and says, "Oh my God, you're so relaxed with your children. Like, I wish I was like that with you guys." It's just what they knew, and that's how they did it. So but I still think she's awesome.
Yeah, she is indeed very awesome from what you will share with me. So lovely. That's so good that you have someone to look up to, and then she built you into someone with resilient and then very big heart like you today. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Irene. So
Thank you. My pleasure.
Before we wrap up the conversation for today, is there any advice that you can give to other women out there, especially moms who might be thinking to start a business as well?
Just do it, because if you don't do it, it will be on your regretting list, right? Like if you don't start and if you don't try, you'll never know. So nobody said on their deathbed, "I wish I didn't do this." I wish I didn't try this. So just get it going. If your heart is in it and it keeps coming back to you, just give it a go and figure it out on the way. Get some support, get good mentors, and go for it.
Love that. You never try, you never know. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Irene. So before we end our conversation today, is there anything that you would like me to ask that I haven't asked yet?
No, I think I've talked way too much already today.
Yeah, I love what you were sharing with us, Irene, and I really love that I can totally see your passion in whatever that you're doing, and then you have such a big heart for all the women out there. And I can totally imagine that little girl when you were little and you climbing the tree, and that's still in you.
Yeah, so again, if you have a question, if you want advice, if you just want to have a nice good whinge about mom life and work, call me for a coffee, a glass of wine at night, and let's just talk. I think it's just so important to have good advice, and if there's anything you want to ask me, just ask me. And as I said, 100% of what you do is going to be wrong to somebody. So you can choose to take advice or you can choose to ignore it and do it your way. But the option is there. So reach out to me, Instagram, Facebook, send me a message, LinkedIn. My name is always the same. So it's Irene Becker. There are not too many. Yeah, let's get started.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time with us, Irene. And I'll definitely include your social media link later. And then whoever who want to reach out to Irene, just search for her, and then I'll include the link as well. And then once again, Irene, thank you so much for your time. And I believe all the women out there get a lot out of today's session.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor. Thanks, Vivienne.
You're welcome. Bye and see you next time.